It's another tense, unsettling horror movie that likes to play with the audiences. Let's talk about Damian McCarthy's next film, Oddity. Hi everyone, it's David Stark from Watch Your Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about Oddity, the second film from Damian McCarthy, the second feature film from him. Caveat came out in 2020, which I loved. I enjoyed it a lot. It kind of played with the audience in fun ways and tense ways. Now Oddity's coming in 2024. It's coming to theaters on July 19, 2024. Is this follow-up a movie you should check out? Well, definitely. My hot take is I definitely think you should watch it. It is a tense horror experience with a great setting, wonderful use of light and sound, and that kind of like thing that Damian McCarthy does is penchant for playing with the audience, kind of playing with your emotions, making you feel tense, making you wonder what's going to happen, and making you kind of yell nope all the time to the characters. It was a lot of fun. It's a really good horror movie. It's a great follow-up for him, and I'm excited to talk more about it. So I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't want to know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off when I get there. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler-free. Let you know when I get to those spoilers. So in Oddity, you have a couple. You've got Dr. Timmis, or Ted Timmis, and his wife, Dani Timmis. They have bought this house out kind of in the countryside. It's pretty isolated. It's kind of needs to be fixed up. So Dani has been fixing it up while Ted works at an insane asylum. But one night, something happens to Dani that causes Ted and the rest of his family to wonder what happened and try to figure it out years later. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, I love the setting. It is a great setting. It's the perfect setting for a horror movie. You've got like an old like stone manor almost that is, it's not in disrepair, it is just old, so there's not a ton of lighting, there's a lot of shadows, it's isolated, so you don't have like a bunch of people nearby. It is the perfect setting for a horror movie, and it is just like a wonderful place to have all the other things that Damian McCarthy is so good at, which I'll talk to you very soon. Second thing I love the lighting. It is fantastic lighting. Just like with Caveat, the lighting is great. It takes place a lot at night. It takes place with a lot of shadows. And so there's always something kind of like off in the periphery that you're not sure if there's something there. Often there's like a flashlight that's used. So you'll only see what the flashlight's showing you, or there will be like, a light that's turned on, but there will still be shadows in the corners. It is a great way to kind of like showcase a horror film and keeps the audience on edge. The third thing I love the sound. It is great sound too. I mean, it's an old house, so there's creaks, there's weather sounds, there's things like that that you're always wondering, was that something that I should know about, or was that something that's just like an old house sound? And again, it keeps you on edge. And the fourth thing I love the buildup. It is slow buildup. You don't get a full picture of what happened until close to the end, which is great because you're wondering, who these people are, how they relate, what is going on. And as you get a little bit more information, the picture starts to become a little clearer as you're building towards this finale. And the last thing I love the tension. Like I said, Damian McCarthy loves to play with the audience, and this is no exception. You get, like I said, things that happen in the shadows, things that you're not sure about, things where like something's gonna happen and you're just waiting for it, and it kind of holds your attention just a little bit longer, just making you wait a little bit longer. There's also, what I called in Caveat, same here, a whole series of nopes, like things that happen that you're like, no, don't do that. Why would you do that? And because of this, you get these moments where you're like wondering what's going to happen next because they made a bad decision or because something bad happened. And so, again, this film has a ton of tension. The setting, the lighting, the sound, all that makes it perfect for a very tense audience experience and a very fun audience experience. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much, this one is exceedingly minor. There's a very, very minor part about the ending that I didn't love as much as I expected to. So I'm really not going to go into it. I liked the overall ending. I thought the ending was good, but there was just something that kind of I wish had done a little bit more. I'm not going to go into it here. I'll go into the recap. So all that being said, Oddity is a great horror movie. It is a wonderful horror movie. It is a good follow-up for Damian McCarthy and just an overall fun horror experience. So definitely check it out in theaters on July 19th, 2024. And if you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. And I'm going to go into an ending in the recap right now. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So Oddity starts with Dr. Timmis and his wife Dani. They are in this like manor, this like stone manor, an old house that they bought, and they're fixing it up. Well, Dani seems to be fixing it up. Dr. Timmis is like working throughout the day. Now, Dani is fixing this place. She's there at night a lot, and her sister, I guess, told her to set up a camera to take periodic pictures. I think she's trying to see if it's haunted. So she wants to like capture pictures to see if there's a ghost. So Dani stays there at night. The house is isolated. It's still being worked on, but Dani has this like tent in the middle of the house that she sleeps in. And I loved it. It was actually like a really fun touch because it had this like bright pop of color. So the house is mostly gray, mostly wood. But then in the middle of the house, you have this like bright yellow tent that really kind of like gives you a little pop right there. And Dani's clothes are a little bit more colorful, so she's wearing like red clothes. So again, really nice use of color, really nice use of lighting, really kind of like it draws your attention right at the start. Now, Ted works at an insane asylum. He works nights, so he is gone this night, and Dani has to go find something in her car. She goes to look for it, uh, and then comes back and closes the door. Now, as soon as she goes in the door, there's like a knock on the door, and you're like, what's going on? Like, this place is isolated. There's no one here. So Dani goes to open the door, and there is a strange person there who has like one fake eye and one regular eye, saying that she's got that she's not safe in there. Someone went inside the house when she was, outside, and she has to let him in so he can like help her. And obviously, she is concerned about this. She doesn't trust this person. He looks a little off. He seems a little off. And he's telling her to open the door late at night when she is isolated. So she says something like, my husband will be back soon. And this person says, Dr. Timmis works nights. So he knows who her husband is and what his schedule is. Again, unsettling, not good for her. So he says like, please open the door, but he does it a little bit too forcefully. And so she says, I'm going to call the police. And this is when this person says, call them. Like he seems like scarily confident to like call them, like come, like get them, let's go. So after he says like call the police, she says like, well, what will you do if I open the door? And he says, well, I'll look around, and if no one's here, then I'll leave. And that's all you get. Then that's it. That's all the information you get. Now it's a year later. We see someone sketching, and it's Johnny French, who was in Caveat. He was the main person in Caveat. I guess the experience in Caveat broke his mental health, and so now he's in an insane asylum. He is sketching, in his art book, and he's sketching the strange man that we saw going to Dani's place. Now he hears something. He goes outside. He looks around. He hears something. He hides under his bed. His door opens. He goes to look around, and he comes upon this like body with just like a head essentially crushed, and you see a fake eye. So this is the man that we met earlier. Now he is dead in this insane asylum. Johnny French's character, who is Declan, I believe is his name, grabs some of the blood and rubs it on him. So a weird start. You're like, what is going on here? But the person who saw Dani is now dead. Well, now we skip ahead and we see like an antiques dealer. Well, it's actually an oddity dealer. It's a place that sells like strange oddities. And the person who owns this is blind. She has white hair. A man comes in, and it's Ted. Ted is visiting Darcy, who is Dani's sister. Darcy tells him about some of the things in this store. One of them is this like haunted bell, like hotel bell. And she says that it was owned by someone who spent time as a bellboy in a hotel. And one night when a guest like shoved him and he broke his neck and he died. And then a few days later, when that bell was rung, the dead bellboy came. So this is the kind of stuff that Darcy sells in this store, like oddities, haunted objects, cursed objects, things like that. Well, speaking of cursed objects, Ted comes by. He tells him that Declan Barrett died last week, and that is the person that we saw in the asylum that found that dead body. Ted says that it was a heart attack, and that when he was clearing out his belongings, he found this eye, and it's the eye of the strange person that came to their house that night. And so he gives it to Darcy because Darcy is a medium. She has some psychic abilities. She sells cursed objects. She's blind, but she also has like apparently psychic abilities, and she wants this eye because this person took his sister's life, and she wants to know what was going through his mind when he was dying. So apparently it's a year later. It's a year after her sister died. So we found out what happened in that strange night with that strange person. Apparently that person killed Dani, killed Ted's wife and Darcy's sister. And now about a year later, Darcy's going to find out what happened. So as they're talking, Darcy's like, I'd like to come visit the house. I'd like to see where she died, on the anniversary of her death. And Ted's kind of like dismissive. He's like, well, we're really busy. We'll see, maybe. And Ted leaves. So after this, Darcy goes into her back room. So she has an oddity shop, and in the back room, it's like her own personal spot. And there is like a wall of really cool old oddities. And one of the things on the wall, I love this, is the Caveat rabbit. The rabbit from Caveat that would like play when there was a spirit nearby. That rabbit is there. Darcy has the eye. She takes off her gloves, she touches it, and then she sees some things about what happened. She cries, and we see like a porcelain doll and then a candle that goes out in her place. And when that happens, the Caveat rabbit like dings. So maybe there's a spirit there. Who knows? Or maybe it was just a fun little callback for people who'd seen Caveat. I'm not sure. But that's all we get there. So we get little hints of stuff throughout. Now we're back in Ted's place, and Ted's girlfriend, Yana, is there. And Yana says that she found this camera when she was going through the house. And it was that camera that Darcy was using to set up to take pictures of stuff. And I was like, this is odd. Like, I feel like the police would have probably found that camera when they were investigating this murder. It feels like that's something they probably would have wanted to see and gone through. I guess they didn't, or maybe they did and returned it. I'm not sure. But Ted didn't seem to remember it, so it feels like it was just at their house. Now, Yana's looking through it, and she also tells Ted that she took a strange picture last night. And it's a picture that she took, and in the picture, in like a mirror or in like a dark doorway, you see a face that looks like it could be Dani's. And also, Yana's telling Ted that last night she hates staying at this house by herself at night, but Ted works nights, so she kind of has to. She says she hates staying here at night, and last night she saw Dani's ghost. And Ted like just dismisses it. Ted is like all about science. He's a doctor. He doesn't believe in any of this spiritual stuff. And Yana is like, I don't want to be here at night. I don't want to be here until like you can fix your schedule and stay here. So she tells him that she's going to go to her apartment until he can fix up his schedule. And he says, sure, fine, go. That's fine. So also, we find out that a big chest was delivered. It was a big chest that was in Darcy's back room. This chest was delivered to their house. It's a big wooden chest with a lock. And then we see that Darcy shows up. And you're like, okay, that was odd. Why is Darcy here? Well, Darcy came for the anniversary of her sister's death. And she, tells Yana, she like comes over there. Ted brings her in. She's like, oh, I'd like to stay here. I thought we were having dinner on, and Ted's like, well, I have to go to work. And Yana has plans tonight. And Darcy's like, it's the anniversary of your wife's death. Can you cancel? He's like, no, I can't. Like, I've got patients. Darcy also says like that Ted invited her. I don't think he actually did, but she's just using that as an excuse to get here. So Ted goes off to work, and Yana's like, I have plans in the city too, so I am also going to go, but you can stay here for a little bit, I guess. She continues to get ready. Uh, Darcy's in the house. She goes to the trunk. She unlocks it. We don't see what's in there yet. So Ted, I guess, gets to work. And in there, he's looking through the file of Declan Barrett, the person that had died earlier, who had that eye in his possession. Declan looks like he drew a bunch of pictures of like very violent ones of this like strange like ghoul looking thing with a lot of blood. This might be what he saw when he found the person who killed Dani like dead. This might be what he saw that like crushed his face, because that face was like crushed. So we don't really know. We're seeing these pictures now. Back to the house. Yana is about to leave, and the chest is open, and the thing that was inside is this like large wooden puppet golem looking thing that is now sitting in a chair. And you're like, how did Darcy do that? I guess she's more resourceful than we thought. Darcy tells Yana that like this box was given to her mother on her 5th wedding anniversary from a witch. The 5th wedding anniversary present is wood, and so this is a wooden box and this wooden thing. And so she wanted to bring it here for, I guess, what would have been maybe Ted and Dani's 5th wedding anniversary. She thought that they should have it. Strange gift, I guess, but Darcy's a little strange. So Yana is looking for her keys and she can't find them. So Darcy's like, oh, well, I guess you're staying, because I was hoping the three of us could spend some time together. Three, I guess, being Yana, Darcy, and the mannequin thing. So they start talking. Darcy is very interested in how Yana and Ted met, because it's only been a year since Ted's wife was murdered, and Yana is already living in the house. So it seems maybe the timeline's a little fishy. It seems like maybe, they were together beforehand. And while they're talking, we get a new flashback. We get to see what happened when Dani was at the house a year ago. So Dani didn't let the person into the house. She said that she can't. She like was going towards the door, and then she said she can't. And this weird person, I'll just call him his real name. His real name is Olin. Olin, says, oh, well, maybe I scared the person away. So I'll go to town and call the police. You stay by the door. And if you hear anything, open the door. So it seems like Olin is actually like a little concerned. Remember, when Dani was like, I'm going to call the police, he's like, yes, please call the police. Call the police, please. So now Olin's going to go to town to call the police. Dani closes Dani closes the slot on the door. She opens it a little bit later. No one's there. So it seems like Olin did leave. Now Dani's alone now. And she decides to explore the house. I'm like, no, stay by the door. Stay by the door. Look out so you can see if anyone's in here, and just like stay alert. Well, she picks up a hammer. Good call. So she has a lantern and the hammer. And she goes to pick up the camera that she set up to take pictures. And so she picks up the camera, but when she does that, she puts down the hammer. And you're like, that's not a good idea, Dani. Don't do that. So she has the lantern and the camera, and she goes into her little tent and closes it. I'm like, no, like, Dani, don't do that. That's even worse. That's a terrible idea. So she's looking through the camera, and she sees Ted leave, and then she's looking through, and then she sees someone on the camera, like someone entered the house. So the person, Olin was right. This person is like dressed in black. They have like a porcelain mask on. And I was like, oh, nope, that's not good. And then Dani decided that she's going to open the tent. I was like, no, don't do that. Again, a series of nopes. So when she opens the tent flap, the person's there. He has the hammer that Dani had before, and it looks like something bad's going to happen. Now, we don't see the actual murder, but we do see a cut to that person sitting down outside the tent. There's blood on his mask. There's blood all inside the tent. So it seems like that is what happened. This person came into the house, killed Dani. The weird, crazy eye person, Olin, was telling the truth. So this story freaks out Yana. Yana asks, like, how do you know this? And Darcy shows her the fake eye that Olin had. So I guess she read all of this from Olin, when she had Olin's eye. So Yana doesn't like this. Later, Yana goes and calls Ted, and she says that Darcy said that Olin didn't kill your wife. It's the creepy orderly that works for you named Ivan. And she says Darcy's also asking a lot of questions about when they got together. So I think it's freaking Yana out. Now there's a creak sound. Yana looks down, and that mannequin, that like wooden mannequin thing, I'm gonna call it a golem because I think it's a golem. That like wooden golem is like looking up at her, and she gets startled at this. Like it didn't move, but it has like moved. It is like moved in the interim, and now it's looking up at her. And she drops her phone. Her phone falls on the ground. And so she goes down to get her phone, and when she's back behind the golem, there's like, she looks at the head, and there's like 5 holes in the head. And I thought it was like, you put your hands in there to control it, but no, inside each of the hole is something. And so Dani grabs a pair of like forceps, I guess, and like pulls out something from each of the holes. One of them has some hair, some of Darcy's hair. One of them has a picture of Darcy and Dani as kids. One of them has a picture of Darcy and Dani as adults. One has a tooth. I don't know whose tooth. And one has a vial of blood. I don't know whose vial of blood. Now, as Yana's pulling all this stuff out, next we see Darcy up and looking at her and says, put them back. And you're like, like that's not good. I'm surprised that Yana didn't drop the vial of blood. But Yana puts it all back, and I was like, Yana, get out of there. Like, this is getting real weird. After Darcy says this and Yana puts everything back, Darcy sits down across from the golem in like the same pose. So like her arms on the table, her mouth open like this, and just like sits there. So Darcy goes to sleep. Yana goes back up to her room to sleep. She's going to lock the door, go to sleep. I was like, Yana, just get out of here. This is not good for you. And she decides to look through the camera again. And I was like, no, Yana, don't do that. Like, leave. She looks at the camera, and there is a video of like Dani and Ted, being kind of silly. And after she watches it again, and this time when it shows Dani's face, it's like a ghoulish face, like a white, dead face with like white eyes. And this freaks out Yana, as you'd imagine. She drops the camera on the ground, like takes a picture, and that ghoul is in the corner. Yana runs. She goes down to the chest. She opens the chest. Her keys are in there. She gets out of the house and she leaves. And as she's leaving the house, the like ghoul face kind of like follows her, but doesn't leave the house. It like follows her to the threshold. So Yana gets in her car, drives away. Now Ted decides to come back. What Yana said concerned him about, the fact that Darcy is saying that someone else killed his wife. And so he comes back. He walks through the house. It's raining. It's dark. Ted doesn't turn on any of the lights. I'm like, Ted, turn on the lights. What are you doing? So Ted explores, and he finds Darcy curled up in a corner. And Ted says that Yana's not answering his phone. Where is she? And Dani says that she frightened her off. And Ted asks her about the thing that he said, that she said that Ivan killed Dani. And Ted's like, Ivan's never met Dani. Why would he kill her? And Darcy's like, because you asked him to. And then she says, I don't love you anymore. I've met someone else. I'm sorry. That was all you had to say, Ted. She would have cried. It would have been difficult for her to move on, but I would have been there and she would have moved on. But instead, you killed her. And then we see a flashback scene. Ted and Ivan are talking, and Ivan says, why don't you just divorce her? And Ted says, she loves me. She'll never get over me. And if she finds out about Yana, so it seems like they were dating before, there's no way I'll get to keep the house. And he's invested too much. Like, he's put all of his money into the house. So So Ted's worried that if Dani divorces him, he'll lose the house, and that's why he asked Ivan to kill her. And while Ted was telling Ivan this, you see Olin listening at the grate. I guess he can hear what's going on in the office, so he hears all of this. He hears what Ted is telling Ivan, and that's why he went to the house. That's why he was there that night trying to like help Dani out. I don't know why he didn't just say, "Hey, oh, is that your husband's asylum? I overheard these plans with this creepy person." I don't know why he didn't say that. Maybe he didn't think he would have been believed. Who knows? Maybe he wasn't in his right mind. He probably wasn't in his right mind. But that is why Olin went there. That is why he showed up at that house, because he wanted to warn Dani, because he wanted to protect Dani. So now we see Darcy, and Darcy says to Ted, "I'll see to you that you use everything, your house, your job, your girlfriend, your freedom." And Ted's like, "You're speaking crazy. Look, like the detective said that it was Olin that killed Dani. Like, let's call him. Let's call him." And he's like, "I don't have his number, so I'm gonna leave my phone here. I'm gonna go back to the office. I'm gonna call the detective and have him call you. So when he does call you, please pick up." Like he's trying to convince Darcy that this whole thing is crazy. Now, what you don't see then, but you see later, is that Ted opened a hatch. Darcy's on the second floor. There was like a hatch in the walkway. That I don't know, maybe it was for a ladder. I don't know what it was for, but he opened it up and he put his phone on the other side of it. So when he gets back to the office, he called Darcy. He didn't call the officer. He didn't call the detective. He just called Darcy, hoping that Darcy would stand up and fall through the hatch and end his problem. And unfortunately for Darcy, this works. She hears the phone. She wants to, listen to see what happens. She gets up, she starts walking, and she falls through the hatch. Now that Ted's back, he confronts Ivan. He says, "You must have talked to someone because, Darcy is saying things." And he sends Ivan to the house to clean it up. So when Ivan gets there, he's walking through the house. He's not wearing gloves. I'm like, why wouldn't Ivan wear gloves? Like, this is not a good idea. He's like going around the house. He sees Darcy on the floor, crumpled up, and so he goes to check on her. She has like a blood coming from her head. Seems like she's dead. But then she moves. She like wakes up ish and looks like she will die soon, but she's not dead yet. Ivan calls Ted and using code basically says like, just like you said, she fell through the door and she's not going to be around much longer. Now, after this call, Ivan tells Darcy it's nearly over. And that's when Darcy says, "We are connected." And she opens her hand and closes it like this. So maybe the like finger things for the golem's head, and then touches her sternum. And then we see the golem and we hear things move. We don't see the golem move yet, but the golem has turned to look at Ivan, like in the periphery. So like when Ivan looks at the golem, it is turned and looking at him. So Ivan is walking around the house trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know why. He hears something in the bedroom, so he goes to check on it, and it's the camera taking pictures. So he looks at the camera, and in the camera, in one of the pictures, is a face. Remember that face that Yana saw? I guess that the camera took a picture of that. And so while he's up there, and he's not wearing gloves, and he's touching everything, I'm like, come on, Ivan, like you're better than this. The golem starts to move. While he's up there, the golem starts to move, and it starts coming up the stairs. And now it's actually moving. Now we see it. Ivan gets freaked out, and he starts running from the golem. Now, the golem doesn't move fast, but it moves deliberately. And so Ivan is trapped on like the second floor. Like it's like an overlook, essentially, that like looks over the first floor. And the golem is coming after him. So Ivan decides that he's going to try to get down there. So he goes over the rail and he like drops from the rail. And like literally in front of him, there was a spot that was like 3 feet lower. He could have gone to that rail and gone down. But Ivan is panicked. He drops down and he breaks his leg when he falls. It looks like he compound fractured his leg. So he's trying to move away. The golem comes up to him. It grabs his head and it looks like he's going to crush it. And as it's crushing his head, Darcy looks up at that little like trap door thing, and we see Dani there looking down from the loft and smiling. So next thing we know, Ivan wakes up in the hospital and he's got bruises all over his face. He's like chained to the bed, and Ted is there watching him. And Ted basically says like, "When you came to, you said that a wooden man attacked you." And so Ted says, "If it attacked you, why was I able to burn it so quickly?" So Ted burned that wooden man very quickly. He burned it in his like, whatever, his courtyard. And then Ted also tells Ivan that he said he wanted a priest. Now, why would you want a priest? And Ivan's like, "Because I have to confess like what I did. Like I don't want to." He basically says like he doesn't want to go to hell, so he wants to confess what he did. Ivan's like, "Look, I'll say I did it. I won't say anything about you. I said I'll do it." And Ted says, "Look, you can't, because even if you do that, people will wonder why I discharge a psychopath, who I guess is Ivan. Ivan was a psychopath, and then why he employed him later and befriended him. They say it won't look good for me. It won't look good for my job. So either way, Ted is going to leave Ivan here where there's going to be no questions. He can control him. He's like in an asylum. They're not going to like think anything of the weird things he's saying. And so Ted decides to leave. And then we see a person who we've seen a couple times from the back. It looks kind of like it could be Declan. I don't think it is though, because Ted said that Declan died, but maybe this is Declan also. He has like a Silence of the Lamb mask on him. He's clearly dangerous. And we see him like looking to the side. And then we see Ivan in his room. His door opens up and we don't see what's happening. And then all of a sudden, from the foot of the bed, we see that person's face. The person who had that mask on. It could be Declan, but I don't think it is. I'm not sure who it is, but he is there and he takes a bite out of Ivan's foot. So it seems like Ted let this killer free while to take out Ivan in the interim. Now, Ted's driving home. He listens to a message on his phone. It's from Yana. She says, "Don't call me. The fact that you're still staying in that house where two people have died is weird. It's strange. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm not coming back there. I'm not coming back to your strange haunted house." So it seems like that second death is what, did it in for Yana. So Yana is broken up with Ted. Good for Yana, I guess. Ted is still in that house. Very weird. Now Ted gets back to the house and there's a package waiting for him. And inside that package is a box. So Ted opens it up and it's that haunted bell, like hotel bell that we heard earlier, that Darcy described earlier. Ted puts it down and he like wants to tap it, but he doesn't. Like, remember, Ted is a pure skeptic. He doesn't believe in any of the supernatural stuff. So he eventually does tap it and nothing happens. And he just kind of like laughs at this. And then we hear some music playing. I don't think it's music in his house. I think it's music for the mood. And it's like some old kind of song about being alone. And while Ted's listening to this, the camera pans over and you see a haunted, evil, dead bellboy next to him. And that's it. That's the movie. That's what happens. I guess this bellboy is going to kill him because Darcy did say before the last two owners who rang the bell, they ended up dead. So it seems like Ted will now end up dead. It seems like Darcy got her revenge. She must have sent this as an insurance just in case. And so now Ted will, I guess, be dead. That is Oddity. There's no stinger, so you don't have to stay for the credits. But again, remember I said I didn't love the ending as much. I wanted some more connection with Dani. I mean, there is a connection with Dani. Like, we know the story, we know what happened, but I wanted Dani to be part of the revenge because Dani's ghost showed up a bunch in the house. She showed up to Yana. She showed up in the camera. She showed up when that golem was gonna kill when that golem was like maybe killing Ivan. I wanted Dani to be like the revenge vector. I didn't want this bellboy. It was nice to like tie it together with that bellboy, that bell, and the fact that that bell like killed whoever rang it. That was a nice tie together, but I wanted Dani to get the revenge, especially against Ted. Ted is the one that like orchestrated her death. Ted is the one that killed her rather than break up. I wanted Dani to have that final revenge. And so she didn't get it. I thought it was a little odd that she had such a presence before, but then when the actual like killing happened, she wasn't a part of it. She was there, I guess, like, Darcy saw her when she was controlling the golem to kill Ivan, but she wasn't a part of it. Maybe that's because Dani's not violent. Maybe Dani just wanted like these people out of her house. Like maybe she just wanted to scare Yana to get her out. I don't know. But that was the only minor thing. And even with that, I loved Oddity. I thought it was a fantastic movie. I thought it was a wonderful experience. So definitely check it out in theaters. And if you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.